Hey everyone, and welcome back to Completely Random. My name is Karen, and today on Baking and Comfort, I wanted to go over a white bread, just a basic, simple white bread recipe with you. I was really afraid to kind of tackle bread. Like, I can make really good banana bread, but I've never attempted to make actual bread. So I found this recipe on Pinterest, and I've been fairly successful with it. It makes 2 loaves, which is pretty good. Of course, because of the yeast having to rise and everything, it is sort of time consuming. It can be. But what I do is I just kind of, well, I mean, it's it's no secret. I'm a binge watcher of Netflix or Hulu. So I let the yeast rise, think, oh, depending on what I'm watching, 1 or 2 shows, pause. I can come back in here and get the bread going. So, you know, it's no sweat off my back. I wanted to make sure I put on when this airs, it'll be St. Patrick's Day, so I definitely wanted to have my button on there. So happy St. Patrick's Day. If you're going to drink green beer or whatever you're into today, have fun, but be safe. Be safe. Don't drink and drive and all that craziness, because no, you don't want to do that. There's Uber, Lyft, and taxis, or phone a friend. So we'll move on from that spiel, but be safe. Okay, so like I said, I was a little bit scared of this recipe, but I tried it, and it really is an easy recipe. So let's get started on it. And of course, I will list the recipe below, so you don't have to take notes below. You can just, relax, enjoy a cup of coffee or green beer or whatever you're partaking in at the moment. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's just one moment. Okay, so the first step is you want to take your yeast packet. This recipe just calls for 1 yeast packet, and you can get, like, I think 5 or 6 packets for maybe 85 cents or something. I mean, I got these at Aldi, but I'm sure, I can't imagine yeast costing very much at Walmart, Meijer, or Kroger, or wherever you happen to shop. I should have already had my water warming up, but it's actually warm. Good. So I'll take my mixing bowl, and I just dump my yeast in there, and it takes, let's see, I realized I didn't have my mixing cup, but it takes 2 1/4 cup to put in with your yeast of warm water. So there's 2 cups. There is a 1/4 cup. And then you kind of just let the yeast dissolve until it's kind of bubbly or foamy looking. So let me take a few minutes and let that sit for a moment, and I'll be right back. Okay, so my yeast is ready, but I also should have added that I added in just a pinch of sugar in with that as it was dissolving. No big deal, but I did that. So now you will add in 1/4 cup of sugar. There's that. And then we will add in 1 tablespoon of salt. That. And then you add in 2 tablespoons of oil. I'm using canola oil. Not that it matters. Whatever you've got in your pantry, that's what you use. There's that. And then we add in 4 cups of flour to begin with. My cup here. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. And there is 4 cups. And now I'm going to mix all that together, and then as that is mixing, I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup more flour at a time. I've already put in 4 cups of flour. This recipe calls for 6.5 cups. So I will put in 2.5 cups at a time, letting it dissolve or blend each time. But I'm going to pause it to do that because, you know, mixers are loud. So just one moment. Okay, so I let that mix with the bread hook for about 5 to 6 minutes. And as you can see, it just kind of comes out in a dough ball, and it's not sticky at all. And that's how you want it to be. That's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take the dough ball. I just took some of that canola oil and I lightly oiled this bowl. So I'm going to drop it in at the top and then flip it over so the top can have a little oil on it. And then the next step is to take some plastic wrap and put it over the top of the bowl. And we will let that sit for an hour to allow the yeast to rise. So I have that, and we will check back on it in 1 hour. Of course, you know what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to go watch TV. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'll check back with you in just an hour. Okay, so we're back. This has been sitting for an hour. So the next step is just to divide the ball into 2 pieces. I know that you can weigh it out and make it an exact, but I really don't care if my loaves match. But if you are that OCD or that particular, have at it. I'm guesstimating it. But save your piece of plastic wrap that you take off. So we'll take it out of the bowl here. And I'll just grab it. I just kind of, just pull it apart. Take one. And you can roll it out, but I just kind of, I'm just going to use my hands to kind of flatten it. And it's supposed to be kind of like an 8-inch wide seam. So I just kind of estimate it. And then you're going to roll it. Just roll with it. And you will take the seam side down. You will place it into a bread pan, which I have a couple here. And I've also already sprayed these with flour spray. So those are going to be good to go. Then I'll take the other half. And then I will roll it up with the seam down. I'll place that into my other bread pan, and I'll set them over here. So they're easy steps in between, but again, you want to cover these with your plastic wrap. I just saved my piece of plastic wrap so I'm not wasting. So I just I'll cover them again so the yeast can rise, or the dough. And that will take an additional hour. So I will be back in an hour to check up on them. Okay, so it has been an hour. So the next thing you do is, I came in about 15 minutes prior, and I went ahead and I preheated my oven at 375 degrees. So you just remove the plastic wrap, and I will put these in my oven at 375 degrees and bake them for 30 to 35 minutes. And so we will be back in about 30 to 35, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so I just took the bread out of the oven, and I did cook it for the full 35 minutes. And the recipe states, if it's done, if it's turned a golden brown, or if it sounds like hollow when you do that. So there's the first one. Second one is not as pretty. But what you do after that, you take a stick of, I take a stick of butter because that's the easiest way. And I just kind of peel it back, and I rub butter over the top of each loaf. And then I will let each loaf cool completely before cutting, because that's the easiest way to do it. And you can cut it as thin or as thick as you want. And sometimes I take the hot bread and I go ahead and I cut it because it's so good, warm with butter on it. Now 2 loaves last a week and a half to 2 weeks, just depending on what the lunch or dinner schedule is, kind of like. So not bad. Overall, it's a cheap recipe, easy to do, a little time consuming, so you got to kind of figure in the time, or the 2 hours, the hour for letting the one rise, then splitting it, then the other hour. But overall, not a bad recipe, and it tastes better than store-bought bread. So I hope you enjoy trying this out. Let me know if you do and how it turns out, or let me know some of your bread recipes. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend, whether or not you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day or whatever you're doing. Until next week, peace, love, and hugs.